Hi, One Best SBR Videos. I'm Peter Loshak. We are talking right now with Nick Kalikas from MMA OddsBreaker.com, and we're going to take a look right now at Gracie, Ken Shamrock, which goes next Friday in Bellator 149. Nick Kalikas, thanks for being with us. This is kind of a crazy fight, right? I'm not exactly sure what to make of it. Right now, I'm seeing it 5 times Shamrock minus 180, Gracie on the other side plus 150. Total is 1.5 rounds. The over is minus 125. Obviously, these are two old timers, legendary names in the sport, and they decided to make this third fight between the two of them. What kind of betting action do you think this fight's going to attract? I'm guessing that it will get pretty heavily bet. What do you think?
I'm not sure about heavily bet,
No?
but it'll definitely draw some decent action. It has already. Honestly, there's been some two-way action coming in, a little bit more coming in on Gracie. And, I mean, you got to respect both guys for sure. But like you just said, 50-year-olds.
Yeah.
So to me, this is a gimmick fight. I mean, a pure gimmick fight. And they're just looking for eyeballs to watch this event. And that's kind of what Bellator has been doing recently. But it's been working out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really a good formula they have. The diehard fans are going to even be intrigued to see what these guys have left a little bit. I mean, as far as a quality fight goes, I mean, again, no disrespect to either one of those guys because they're both legends. They both deserve the utmost respect from all of us. I mean, if it wasn't for guys like this, the sport wouldn't be where it's at today. But
they're old as shit, Nick Kalikas.
Yeah, they're 50. Exactly. So what kind of quality fighting are you going to get here?
I don't know.
This was a difficult line for me to set. I mean, honestly, a very difficult line to set because you just don't know how it's going to play out. I mean, if anybody can accurately predict this fight, I mean, it's really beyond me. I mean, Royce has been out for several years. Right. Shamrock's been a little bit more active, but still nothing great from either guy.
Well, recently. I actually do think that I have a pick here that I'm kind of liking. We'll see what your take on it is when I tell you what it is. But I feel like the odds for this fight wouldn't be that hard to set because you kind of know that anyone who's going to bet it is probably going to be coming in on both sides, right? So you're roughly, you set a line roughly, you make Shamrock minus 150 or something like that. You know you're probably going to attract two-way action. You're not in danger of getting like the, big public action on one side or the other, right?
Yeah, I mean, I went a little bit higher with Shamrock purposely because from what I've seen lately out of the two, I mean, honestly, he's going to be the bigger, stronger fighter here. Right. I think he's got an edge standing, of course. He's even got an edge on the ground as far as wrestling goes, and he could get top position. So if it does happen to go a little bit, I mean, if it does crazy, if obviously they went to a draw before, so they have gone to the scorecards. But I mean, this is years later. Again, their chins are a lot weaker. They're not the same fighters they were. So if it hits the scorecards, I think you got to give an edge to Shamrock across the board here. So I did open at minus 215, and we drew a little bit more action on Gracie, which is kind of what I want at the moment. So I want to be needing Ken Shamrock, even though I said it's crazy to get an accurate read on how this fight plays out. I still honestly favor Shamrock because he is the harder hitter at this point. I mean, his stand-up game is definitely a little bit better, but it's hard to trust his chin, even against a non-striker really like Royce Gracie.
My sense on this one is, as already mentioned, they're both old as shit. I'm thinking that the over 1.5 rounds at minus 125 might be a great bet. I mean, do you really see this one ending early? I think there's going to be a lot of, pomp and circumstance surrounding it. They'll get in there, they'll grapple a little bit, and it, probably goes into the third round, right?
I could see it that way. I would lean more over 1.5 than under. Based on that, I think that we could see some stalls. But honestly, underground, I think if it does hit the floor, these guys, neither one of them are going to be as smooth and move as good as they used to. So I think they can get in some problematic spots. Meaning, in a way, I feel like Shamrock can get on top. And if he does get on top, if he passes guard, which is going to be hard. I mean, Royce Gracie's still going to have a heck of a guard game off his back. But if he gets positional control and starts just landing some bombs, I could see Royce kind of turtling up a little bit or, getting in a really bad position where he just can't defend himself properly and the referee stops it. So that's my concern. Or just getting caught flush on the feet real quick with one big punch from Shamrock as well. And then on the other side of that, I mean, maybe Royce in the scramble does have a little bit more juice left and he takes his back and subs him. So I think there is a probability that the fight does go under. But if I had to choose over, under 1.5, I would definitely go with the over.
Yeah, I mean, my sense is that their advanced age impacts their offense a lot more than their defense, at least at this point, at this age, around 50.
Yeah, I mean, but again, Ken Shamrock definitely went after it against Kimbo Slice in his recent fight. You couldn't really get a lot from that either. But at the same time, I think he has that kind of confidence and a point to prove almost for him more so than Gracie. So I think he's going to come out here firing and look to finish. I think he's going to have a little bit more confidence. I mean, if you look at the size difference between these two guys, I mean, Ken Shamrock at his age even, I mean, he still looks like, I mean, he's been busted before for steroids and all that stuff. He still looks like a physical specimen. Right. I mean, at that age.
Right.
So I think he's confidently going into this fight thinking, hey, I can knock Gracie out right now. I mean, he's an older, skinnier guy. I can, handle him on the ground as well if it gets to the floor. So I think his confidence, even in interviews and everything else, is really higher than I've seen it in a long time. And it really should be. I mean, not that, again, Royce is a more difficult matchup or isn't a more difficult matchup than somebody like Kimbo Slice. But in a Kimbo Slice fight, Kimbo's a lot more dangerous these days for a guy like Shamrock as Royce would be, I think. Because on the ground, you've dealt with the jiu-jitsu end of it, even though Royce is one of the best ever in the sport, still not as fearful as getting submitted than getting knocked out by a guy like Kimbo Slice. So I think his confidence is going to be a little bit higher. He has been facing some stiffer competition as far as, I mean, he's lost a few years back again to Tito Ortiz in fights like that, where Royce, I mean, his last really difficult test was Matt Hughes, in my opinion. I know he fought Sakuraba and won a decision not too long ago as well, but still, I mean, that's an aging Sakuraba even back a few years back. So I still think that Ken Shamrock has kind of fought the more difficult opponents recently and the more dangerous guys. So this is almost like a step down in competition.
At minus 125, I would give over 1.5 rounds as a pick there. Do you have any sense of where this line might move or close? Do you have any sense of where the public is going to come in and if there's going to be any big action that comes in late?
I could see the number on the total move a little bit higher. So maybe it gets to about $140, $150, maybe even more as far as the total goes. So yeah, if you want to get on to minus 125 right now, it's probably still time to catch a decent number because I think it will get a little bit worse. And as far as the action on the side, I mean, honestly, it's going to keep on going back and forth. It has dropped down to, I believe, as low as 160-ish, and then now it's climbing back up to 180, and I did open it at 215. So there will be two-way action on this fight. I think it probably closes maybe close to my number, but if a lot of the public hype and a lot of the public support comes on Royce Gracie because of his name, because of his recognition, all that stuff, even with people that maybe are not studying fights these days to look for a bet, if they just flip on the channel and they log into the website and says, oh, Royce Gracie, man, that guy is amazing. If they haven't really kept up with the times, maybe we see some trickles of that kind of action coming in and the line drops. But honestly, I think anybody at this point, if there's any kind of sharp action, I think you got to lean a little bit more towards Ken Shamrock. So I think it'll probably stay ballpark, might even close to where I opened it around 2-1 or so.
All right, well, I have a pick on this one, over 1.5 rounds at minus 125. Nick Kalikas, if you had to give a bet on this one at the current odds, we know what the total is. Right now, Shamrock 180, Gracie 150. What would your pick be?
I would probably go Shamrock, honestly.
Really,
still.
at minus 180?
Yeah, I know it's hard to trust him, and it wouldn't be a very confident bet either way here, but I do have a little bit more confidence in Ken Shamrock this time. So especially if it drops. I mean, if you see this line dropping, and it could, down to 160, 170, or 150-ish, kind of trending down a little bit more than that, then yeah, I think there is a little bit of value on Ken Shamrock. So I would go that route. And I agree with you. If you're going to bet over or under, I would go with the over 1.5 rounds as well.
Nick Kalikas' website is MMAOddsBreaker.com. Nick Kalikas, thanks so much, as always.